Quick thing I want to say before we get the video going proper, I already put videos out on a when I can basis because it's more of a hobby than an actual job, even though I took a leave from work so I could take care of my mom after surgery on her leg. Yeah, any free time I have has gone to cooking or house renovation stuff. Renovations that were intended to move my grandpa up to the house, but if you saw the August update video, you know that, well, he didn't get to see the end result. So, yeah, don't hold your breath on me making more videos more often. If you still want to support me with some monetary kudos, though, my Ko-fi link is in the description box. You know, it's actually kind of crazy how long ago it's been since I made this video and kicked off my reputation of throwing the book at Doug Walker for having terribly researched and crafted videos, or that of bitching about how I'm mad at a review by a popular internet personality and how toxic that is. It's not something I asked for, but you guys seem to like it, so here we are. And I guess I should make one tiny correction about the video, and that's that it actually isn't everything wrong with Nostalgia Critic's review of the 1996 Sonic OVA, 1999 for Western audiences. There's actually a lot more wrong with it that I didn't get to because the ones I did address were bad enough on their own, and some of the ones I didn't address aren't exclusive to this review. Also, now that I don't have papers and exams to write for school anymore, I can get to some of the things I missed and no doubt will be presenting more corrections. Corrections on my end, anyway. Doug still doesn't understand Sonic. And preemptively, yes, I'll look at his out-of-character review of Sonic 2. I've been busy as fuck. Sega and Magma do what Doug and Nintendo don't. Right, this is going to borrow from a later video I did on Doug and his brother Rob's out-of-character review of the Sonic movie from 2020, and a point from my Wreck-It Ralph Disney-Cember lightning round, but Doug just doesn't like Sonic, and he's a self-professed Nintendo fanboy. Frankly, I'm the other way around, being a major Sonic fan, but I do have a bit of a nostalgic soft spot for Mario games since Nintendo was my main console as a kid. And it wouldn't be until we got a PlayStation 2 at my dad's house when I would have access to Sonic in some form. That would be the Mega Collection Plus. I prefer the Blue Blur to the Italian Plumber because Sonic was always built on trying to bring something more to the table in platformers. Be it challenging high-speed gameplay that mastering is absolutely rewarding, endearing and interesting characters with fascinating lore, or even just how flexible the series can be. So that being said, Sega releasing Sonic games onto their rivals' hardware. After revisiting the respective fails countdowns by Josh Scorcher, Sonic coming to Nintendo was the result of both Sega's gross lack of management, both Sega and Nintendo getting curb stomped by Sony's PlayStation, the latter especially hilariously because their ended collaboration with Sony came back to bite them in the ass, and Nintendo having its own rocky history with third-party developers. This would also be good for Sega since now they were a software developer and publisher, they could just put Sonic anywhere they liked, and that's what helped Sonic Adventure 2 and the Sonic Advance series to become as popular as and the staples that they are. And the Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games series is more than enough finalization that those two companies can let bygones be bygones. Of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how the companies took potshots at each other throughout the 90s. For Nintendo, there's an enemy in the Yoshi games called Hairy Hedgehog, and they're blue hedgehogs that run around quickly, and in the high scores of Donkey Kong Country 2, Sonic's shoes are over by a trash can with a "No Hopers" sign hung on it. And for Sega, all their trash talk was in their aggressive marketing to show how much more powerful the Genesis was compared to the Super Nintendo. Y'all remember Sega does what Nintendo don't?
And about his attitude. Smarty pants! Why can't it be more like that nice boy Mario? Oh! Little brat!
And yes, circling back to Sony dominating the console wars of the late 90s, Crash Bandicoot even took potshots at both of them, which weren't as entertaining to look at. So now fast forward to the Wii U deal in 2012, where Sega made a deal with Nintendo to have the next 3 games be Wii U exclusives, those being the London 2012 Olympics, Lost World, and Boom, and Jeb from JebTube can perfectly articulate how wrong it went.
We start with the fact that Sonic Team wastes their time making a game with the exceedingly obvious goal of ripping off Mario. It worked so well to nudge colors in that traditional kids platformer direction that when it comes time to literally sign ourselves over to Nintendo, we're going all in.
I, of course, dump all of this in your guys' collective lap with the obvious fact that Doug is a Nintendo fanboy with little interest in any other games by any other company. And the opening joke could have just been left at something like, "Oh, I was expecting Sega!" Like it does when you boot up the game. Well, at least we have some proof you can indeed hear pictures. Super Fighting Hedgehog, Mega Man. Yes. Before I was putting Doug in detention for conflating Osmosis Jones and Inside Out due to having a shared premise at the very, very lowest common denominator of taking place inside the human body, I was correcting the record on comparing Sonic with Mega Man, another franchise he clearly doesn't understand. Many of you probably already know this, but for those in the back, Mega Man is one of those series I know next to nothing about, so I was out of my wheelhouse when I dinged the review on this joke. At the very least, I made an effort to brush up on bare facts for what was relevant, and at the end of the day, I can only add one more shared trait. Both series feature a blue protagonist, a robotics master with a bushy mustache, and both are painfully mistreated or mishandled by their companies despite being their respective mascots. Other than that, there really isn't much I can add to this part of my critique. I don't know a lot about the Mega Man series other than the X games started going downhill with Iafune's departure after X5. Mega Man 11 was granted development mercy if anyone knows Capcom's track record with target sales on their games, and someone in the comments section on this video did mention that in some games and official art, Roll is shown to be a little too attached to her brother, if you know what I mean. Amy isn't related to Sonic at all, even though Sonic did have a sister in Underground named Sonia, and according to Sonic's creator, Naoto Oshima, Amy would be the one Sonic eventually reciprocates feelings for, but his first and foremost love is adventuring. Alright, and foxes technically are canines, but that still doesn't mean Tails and Rush are on the same level in terms of purpose. My best guess is Doug conflated the two because Rush can be used as a hoverboard and Tails has a tendency to be able to carry people while he flies, but come on. Piggybacking off the decline of the Mega Man X games, Doug's choices for universally panned Sonic games smacks of lifting opinions from other personalities that have contributed to Sonic's status as the gaming industry's punching bag. Hi, Ego Raptor! Sonic 06 is at least understandable because it was shipped incomplete, and all the great ideas it had desperately needed more time in the oven. It's an absolute tragedy. Sonic Heroes was definitely divisive because it was experimenting some more with the 3D formula. It had to draw in new players while satisfying the existing base, and Sega and Sonic Team also had the challenge of making this their first multi-platform debut. Yes, I know Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 got a GameCube release. I know! But those were ports of the Dreamcast games and not wholly new games. And speaking of the adventure games, yeah, they have flaws, but the hatred of them was blown way out of proportion to mimetic levels by the internet. Popularized by Game Grumps Aaron, aka Ego Raptor. And naturally, since Doug believes only his opinion is the correct one, it's not too far out of the realm of plausibility that he saw Ego Raptor's Sonic was never good mentality as validation of his own allegiance to Nintendo, and not being much of a Sonic fan, so plop those games on the list. Sonic games following Adventure 2 have seen their share of divisiveness, but other than 06, the only games that really are bad words to the fandom, even in recent memory, are Sonic Lost World, the 2005 Shadow the Hedgehog spin-off game, Sonic Free Riders, Sonic Forces, and Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric especially. And don't anybody dare tell me that this review came out before any of those games. It premiered in summer 2018 while he was also desperately trying to distract people from the change the channel situation. If any of them went under his radar, that's because he doesn't follow Sonic at all and he wouldn't bother checking news on these titles. Even then, that's no excuse for him to not do even some basic research. DeviantArt. You know the review is going to have nothing of substance, or is going to be from someone who's completely foreign to Sonic and doesn't know anybody with extensive knowledge of Sonic when you put 4 DeviantArt jokes in the first 2 minutes.
Let's talk about Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm required to say before DeviantArt? What, you didn't want to see Sonic turn into a werewolf or make out with Final Fantasy foldouts? Oh, some of you did. I'm also required again to say there is no DeviantArt in this video. Why do I suddenly have 10 emails of inflated Sonics? And I'm gonna take a wild guess and say there's stranger things online. Well, why shouldn't I Google Ka from the Jungle Book? I see no reason why not. Oh God! Okay, we're getting off topic.
There's low-hanging fruit, and then there's fruit that's already fallen to the ground and rotted. Being a resident DeviantArt user myself, I'm all too familiar with the literal ocean of really weird Sonic fan art that floods any art posting website. The good news is that it's only pumped out by a minority within the fandom, but the bad news is that they are extremely vocal and open about their degeneracy to the point that they're the face of this fandom, and I've never wanted Murdoch to hit me with a car and put me out of my misery more badly.
Jesus the Hedgehog. This can't exist. This exists.
This is all the more reason I hold Doug to the standard of being the face of internet movie reviews, because while there is still plenty of good and not weird fan art of Sega's Golden Boy, and it's all made out of love and appreciation for the series, well, that wouldn't be the impression you got if you used Doug's review as an entry point, now would it? Plus, any goodwill and neutrality this opening interlude had was shot in the face by these jokes, and while the custom character feature and forces did see mixed reception because on one hand, hey, you could finally bring your OC to life in a game, it also meant that recolors and the laziest form of character creation of taking an existing member of the roster and slapping a new accessory on them and claiming it's a new character, do not steal, got legitimized. Oh wait, Doug actually did the latter by just slapping his hat, tying glasses onto Sonic, and renaming him the Sonic Critic, and also implying that this 1996 OVA was made for that crowd? Speaking of fan art and things that go hand in hand with it, Spank Bank implications. Hey Scout, I'm gonna need you again. This isn't going to be unique to this review, but I'm going to put up this blanket statement for every Nostalgia Critic and out-of-character review where Doug is talking mad horny for someone in bonk distance. Here we go. Doug Walker, you need to keep both hands on the desk where we can see him. Hey, don't look at me like that. A good chunk of this review was implying that the OVA was fur-bait, spank-bank material, or both. It's no secret that Rule 34 is a very common type of fan art that comes from the degenerates of the fandom, and throughout this review, Doug makes sure you know that he knows that there's an unsettling number of Sonic porn artists. Another thing he wants you to think about this OVA every time he makes this kind of joke is that it was specifically made to titillate the audience because, hey, Sonic and friends are anther animals, Sarah is a cat girl, that must automatically mean that furries are watching. There's also these jokes,
where Tails, his psychic/child/adult/fiction, is off to use his surfboard. I mean, do we have phones? We don't seem to have clothes that cover our genitalia. Are we just really advanced nudists? Second thing, are you two an item now? They tried that in another game. The results were Huey. Sonic agrees for whatever disturbed relationship he has with Sarah.
You better keep your hands off my Sonic or I'll never forgive you!
Okay, does my Sonic mean hedgehog or hedge? Because either way, I'm very disturbed.
Sarah!
That part was rewound.
Sonic will never again be a pain in my egg!
Wait, am I called Eggman yet? Oh, who cares? The parents kind of get it.
Are you crazy? I wouldn't marry you if you were the last man on Earth!
But I will be the last man on Earth. Oh, who cares? Everyone knows the reason I gave you that dress is because it's an anime and we're near the third act. We need upskirt options.
No! Don't look there, you pervert!
I'll give credit. That's the most imaginative way I've seen that done. Knuckles and Tails save Sarah, but big shock, things get sexually awkward.
Tails, get off!
I'm so sorry!
I never thought you'd stoop that low. Wow.
Well, can't act like I'm shocked I have to play this.
Kids, there's nothing more cool than being hugged by someone you like. But if someone tries to touch you in a place or in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, that's no good.
I was like a cowboy with a gun holster with that clip. Everybody tries to help Sonic out, and she is sitting on his face! What the hell, Japan? You are giving kids no chance to have a normal sex life!
That last one and the "this is an anime, we need upskirt" options really get me, because it's common knowledge Doug doesn't watch anime, isn't a fan of anime, and yet thinks that all anime is spank bank material and fan service if his Sailor Moon is any further indication, because nothing can ever be his fucking fault, you see? And I get it. Japan is far more mature and relaxed about sexual topics than us overly prudish Americans will ever be, but painting all anime as pure titillation is a disservice to the medium and buries the other reasons why people like it. Regarding just anime, this schmuck would have a stroke if he saw Kill la Kill or Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt. And don't anybody tell him about Sonic's own resident Miss Fan Service, Rouge the Bat. He'd have an aneurysm.
Booba.
Lazy design.
Okay, even by Sonic designs, that's lazy.
Shit-talking mushrooms! I didn't realize this one got past me until a year later, but we've had another thing I should have sent this review for. Lazy! Even by Sonic designs! This man seriously insinuated that Sonic character designs are lazy! Cartoon animals wearing accessories are nothing new. They've been around practically forever, but gained popularity among animators during the golden age of animation, and artistic tastes are different, but this dude is seriously going to call the Sonic character design style lazy. Bullshit! Sonic characters, Powerpuff Girls, and even the Rubber Hose cartoons that the former was based on, now really, Sonic's first designs were heavily inspired by Bimbo Beagle, are what I call deceptively simple. These are character designs that look incredibly easy and straightforward to draw, but you'll take forever trying to get them right because all it takes is one errant line to throw the whole thing into uncanny valley and off-model hell. This is something that I would think someone who is so invested in animation would understand, but fuck me for being a dumbass because that just isn't the case. Even if you want to apply it to just the Robo-Slug and how it looks too simplistic next to other robot models, hey, I'll at least give you that, but yeah, even for an actual enemy in the games, it's kind of blah. At the same time, I disagree that it's a thoughtless design and can also point out that the more creative designs are usually reserved for heavy-duty badniks and robots, while worthless consumer models would have a more simple look. I done goofed. This review is trash, but you knew that. It's full of misinformation and flat-out wrong statements. But you knew that. But let it never be said that I claim my video to be absolutely perfect because it sure as hell isn't, and I did make a couple of boo-boos. Coming off design and something I addressed in both the Powerpuff Girls movie response and the 2020 movie rebuttal, let me say it one more time for the people in the back. Robotnik knows how to incorporate his face into his machines because he has an advanced practice with his trade, and it's also all part of the franchise-long joke that the Doctor has an ego that demands him putting his mug on every piece of property under his control as to assert his dominance. Also with Dr. Eggman, yeah, I switched between Eggman and Robotnik a lot in my review, what of it? I said he has no robotic assistants working on his projects alongside him. Many of you would bring up the comedy duos across the franchise history. Scratch and Grounder, Boko and Deco, and Orbot and Cubot, with special mention going to Sleet and Dingo, but I don't know how much they count because they're not robots, and you guys would be absolutely correct. So let me rephrase myself. Sure, Eggman does have his robotic assistants, but the man himself is where any project starts and ends. He comes up with the idea, the blueprints, the material list, and the majority of assembly and programming. Any other robot he employs on a machine is for if he needs another set of hands or tend to work on one part of assembly while he takes full focus on another and more specialized areas. I made a mention of Tails' fear of lightning originating in the games. What's the issue? This was first mentioned in the manual of Sonic Jam, which came out in 1997 on the Sega Saturn a year after the OVA premiered in Japan. Oops. And finally, Metal dying in the lava pit. This one is more left to interpretation, and while I stand by what I said in my initial video, I'll go ahead and entertain his last words because it's just as valid. The whole point of the second half of the OVA, Sonic vs. Hyper Metal Sonic, was that the real and Robot Hedgehog were duking it out in a contest of who held the honor of longevity and eternity. This world ain't big enough for the two of them, and the everlasting, superior Sonic would be determined by deathmatch. And the superior one is the real Sonic because, sure, neither one of them will really live forever, but Sonic's humanity is something that Metal will never have. He may get reprogrammed to operate on the real one's wavelengths, but no matter how much he atones for his atrocities, Metal will never truly know what it's like to actually have a heart and soul or even just live life. So he concedes and honors the terms, he swats Sonic's hand away, and the rest is as we know it. Also, my musings in regards to the 2020 movie, because it turned out great in the end, but how the hell was I supposed to know how it would turn out back in early May 2019 when the situation was still rapidly changing, so y'all can stop telling me about it? Other inconsistencies and miscellaneous. Funny how Doug goes from, why doesn't this movie explain anything? In Quest for Camelot to, you're a visual medium, show don't tell, in Shark Boy and Lava Girl, right back to, why doesn't this movie explain anything? Here, though, it's not like the guy was that great at paying attention in the first place. Doug actually was in a fan film from 2012, and if his opening interlude is anything to go by, he didn't enjoy it. He regrets being in it, but also insinuates that he was the best part of it? I barely remember that project, and I wouldn't know if he actually was in if someone didn't tell me. Burying his failures is par for the course, since he hates that people keep bringing up demo reel, even though his show has been that with a nostalgia critic paint job ever since it was revived. If anyone is wondering, the fact that his Adventures of Sonic and Sad I Am double review doesn't hold up today, he didn't honor his Sonic entry of top 11 things he'd never review, despite being so high up on the list and subsequent Sonic videos showing you exactly why he shouldn't give into the prospect of cashing clicks just to talk about the blue blur. I absolutely do not trust him to cover the remaining Sonic cartoons he hasn't gotten to yet. And yes, Doug, you are the reason Adventures saw a surge in hatedom. The shtick excuse has worn off, you and the Critic character are indistinguishable, you've been appointed as some kind of authority, just take the responsibility and tell people to form their own opinion. And preferably actually improve your craft, thanks, bye.